So good morning, everybody. I'm here in St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm going to AEW Wrestle Dream. And I do want to mention that I've been to over 50 AEW shows in the past couple of years. I started in 2023, going to Arthur Ashe Stadium when the Acclaim won the tag team titles. And I just really got hooked on the show, really. And the other thing I like about AEW is a few things. That, I like that it's a little bit more violent. I also like that, they're not charging out of the ass, really. If I want to see the You Can't See Me Man down in Washington, D.C., the cheapest tickets are $887, and also, too, that I like AEW for being unapologetic, just like Rick James, they're habitual line steppers, you're going to see more violent, crazy, off-the-wall shit, you're going to see longer matches, I just have more fun with it. And also, too, they've not really reached their mountaintop, in my opinion, really. There's always more that they can do, really. So I like companies with unpredictability. WWE's reached their mountaintop in the 80s and the 90s, so you always there's some unpredictability to AEW, really. So about my trip to St. Louis, I've had a really great time, coming into St. Louis. I'm reading a book called Hamburger America, where I go and review burger places recommended by George Motz. I went to Carl's Drive-In, had a really great burger there. I went to White Knight Diner. And, later on today, I went to this milkshake place, where Adam Richman went. He tried to drink 15 milkshakes, didn't work out for him. I drank a vanilla, chocolate, and marshmallow milkshake. It worked out for me. And then also, I was able to fly my drone a little bit. And then, before the show, I'm going to Pappy's, which has, the best barbecue in the world, baby. To quote the American dream, that's the road, baby. So, and then a little later today, around 5 p.m., I'm going to the Chia Fitz Arena. The only thing bad about that arena is that it has a really hard-sounding name, really. So I do want to talk about the match card a little bit. With these vlogs, one thing that you have to do is not you have to kind of shorten a little bit things. So I'm going to talk about the matches that stand out to me that I really want to see. The first match that I do want to see is Darby Allin versus Jon Moxley. They're both crazy, bad, off-the-wall motherfuckers, really. They're kind of doing this Dark Knight and Joker type of thing, really. Just, crossing lines, having, having phone conversations in jail and other things like that. So it's a match that I do want to see. And I do also want to see my boy, Hangman Adam Page and Samoa motherfucking Joe. Samoa motherfucking Joe is one of the baddest motherfuckers that ever lived. I also want to see Kyle Fletcher versus Mark Briscoe. I'm happy that they're not having a hardcore match, because, they do a lot of hardcore matches with Briscoe. Let's see what he can do a lot of really great styles, really. So we'll see how that is going to go, really. And then the next match I want to see is Brodito versus, Okada and Takeshita, because, Okada, Takeshita, Bandito, they all really bring some really great stuff, really. I actually hope that Okada and Takeshita win the tag team titles tonight, because they're going to have some really, really great matches. I think that's kind of the best direction for them. And the last match I want to see is Mercedes Moné versus to be announced, really. So Mercedes is facing a random person we don't know yet for the TBS Championship. And my prediction is it's going to be Britt Baker. They're going to bring Britt Baker back. It's going to shock a lot of people. That'll be the way to go, really. And then Mercedes accomplished her mission, which is to go past the Jade Cargill reign. So I think that would be really interesting if they brought Britt Baker back. I think that this would be the right time to do it, really, because then it's almost like, what else do you do with Mercedes? Those are the matches that I do want to see. Overall, when I grade the car, really, I paid, so what I'll say this, I paid $185 for this show for a ticket, really. When I look at everything on the show, I know a lot of these are repeat matches, but I'm not too upset about that. I think that overall, I'm happy to go. I think it's worth it. I think it's a B- to me, because there are a bunch of repeat matches. I do appreciate them having one I Quit match, one hardcore match. They're not overdoing it tonight. I know with Wrestle Dream and also Dynasty, these are not the pay-per-views. These are not their major pay-per-views. All the other ones are kind of their major ones, really. So, they're not going to give their best, really. But we'll see how it goes tonight. This is fucked up. This is fucked up. He loves hentai. 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 So guys, I'm here at AEW Wrestle Dream, and I do want to say that was a very, very thrilling show. Definitely, it was way better than the show that they had last year, in my opinion, because really the two big things that happened last year was Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson, and Swerve becoming the champion. And I think that, yeah, AEW has kind of struggled with storylines, but the big thing is that it's really like thrilling and entertaining and everything like that, really. And I think that that's kind of the thing that I remember, really, because, you know, it seems like when people say AEW struggles with storylines, yes, but I think sometimes they have to understand that they've made characters. Like Jon Moxley's like an asshole that we don't like because he has monopolized so much television, really. So sometimes when you see characters like that, really, or Mercedes or other people like that, they become natural, you know, assholes that you want to see, you know, get comeuppance to. And I think that AEW may or may not realize that. So I do want to talk about the matches that I do like. You know, I just recently saw the I Quit match, and I have two feelings about this. That I'm happy they didn't use fire, because a lot of people are expecting that, and that's called the subversion of expectations. You think it's going to go one way, it goes another way. You watch Pulp Fiction, Marvin gets shot in the face, and you didn't see that coming, really, because they set it up like these people know how to control their weapons, really. So, you know, the fact that they used water, a lot of people thought that they were going to use a fish tank. And then the other thing, too, you saw water all over the place. So you're almost like, if they set somebody on fire, you know, how's that going to go, really? You know, and then you also saw Sting interfere, really. So that could set up Moxley versus Sting if they want to do one more match. You know, even though he retired, you know, that's professional wrestling. Never say never. People do break the retirement rule all the time. But it was very violent. It was very thrilling, and I really enjoyed it. I would say that a concern about that match was the fact that the concern about this match was that it was the main event, really. I think that's not a good idea, because the main event should be the World Heavyweight title, and Hangman has kind of struggled to have a good title reign, mostly because of bad booking. So I do think that having it as the main event kind of says, oh, well, he's not that good of a champion, or we don't really trust him as a champion with our belt, really. So it's not good that it was the main event, really. But I am very, very happy that it lived up to expectations, and it took different turns, really. I like Sting interfered. You know, Sting looks out for Darby Allin. You know, it's a lot of fun just to see him. The next match that I liked was Brodito versus Okada and Takeshita, really. Like, you know, a lot of really great back and forth. You know, they also know how to put matches together very, very well. Like, I don't see it. And I also feel like, unlike the Young Bucks, they don't always rely on flippy stuff. I think that you always see different stuff from Bandito and Brody King, really, because they know not to do flippy stuff all the time. They know not to do the same move all the time, really. So I feel like, you know, not always flips and dives, really. They space it out that much. So when I watch their match, they're good. And then to see Takeshita do the Blue Thunder Bomb and other moves, and when I watch a Takeshita and Okada match, they know how to do long matches very well. Like, I don't see a lot of, in the sense, repeats of moves that much, and they build towards bigger moves, and there's counters and reversals, really, and there is a story there that, you know, Okada's kind of an asshole. Takeshita is tolerating Okada. They both want to gain titles because they're both hungry for titles. They want to be loyal to Don Callis family, and they see, like, you know, Bandito doubt himself, but at the end he brings a kid into the ring, showing that, you know what, there's a part of him that has a heart. You know, he's that kind of like that family man type of person, that person with a heart type of thing. And then Brodito's kind of like, you know, he's cheering his boy up. He's like the hype man, really. So you kind of see, like, you know, two good friends versus two people that are not good friends, and just that they can overcome any odds, really. You know, like, you know, they can overcome, dick people like Okada, really. and Don Callis. So that was a really good match, good storytelling, and like I said, keep it simple, stupid. It's the jerks versus the non-jerks. The other match that I liked early on was the Hurt Syndicate versus the Demand. It was a tornado tag, so I forgot that tornado tag is actually a hardcore match. And I've kind of said to myself, I don't want to see multiple hardcore matches on AEW because you get into repeat mode. But it was so early on in the card that I don't, it was such a gap in time, really. I didn't feel it was like repeat and stuff like that, really. But it went a while. You saw people get put through tables. I like how, again, Ricochet attacked the Hurt Syndicate. And that was good because obviously he's doing what Ricochet does. Ricochet's a jerk. He does that same thing, really, So it worked. But I do think they're also running into too many champions that behave like jerks, really. Or too many heels that behave like jerks because it gets to a point, really, where it's kind of like, maybe they can have a more complicated character, like when Hangman was a heel and stuff like that. He just had to understand that maybe he took his revenge too far, really, So they got to make some complicated characters, really. I wasn't really into the Samoa Joe and Hangman Adam Page match because you really didn't think that Samoa Joe was going to win. So it didn't catch my attention. It was a typical Samoa Joe match. He does his side steps when somebody jumps. He does the muscle buster and other heavy hitting moves and stuff like that. But he turns heel at the end of the night, and I really like that he did that because I think that the Ops are really good heels. Imagine if you made the Hurt Syndicate the baby faces, and it kind of works since people like the Hurt Syndicate, so it kind of works to turn them babyface. But I think we run into this other issue with AEW that they do heels well, but they don't do baby faces that well, really. I think that they're in a severe lack of baby face. Like anybody who gets hired to AEW, if they hire new talents or whatever, 100% they need to be on the babyface side, and they need to kind of work with those. I like Toni Storm and Chris Statlander. Really cool match with each other. Statlander showed what she can do. I've said this many times. I've not seen any woman on the AEW roster do the 450. So good that Statlander did that. She showed that she's a champion. And then also, too, Mercedes versus Statlander at Full Gear. That's the most appropriate match because you have the privileged bitch versus the bitch that works hard, wants to persevere, wants to, be like, hey, I've earned this, I've worked for this, I was overlooked, I'm not a fluke champion. So that's a good, entitled bitch versus the I've earned it bitch, type of thing, really. So that's a really great match. And then, I'm thinking down the card, Jurassic Express, I was very surprised, and I'm not sure why the audience is so over with Jack Perry, but, if it works, it works, really. I think that, again, we don't like the Young Bucks, and they're kind of like douchebags, so honestly, you have people that, you have wrestlers people like against douchebags, so that works, probably why he's over, but also, too, I wish Luchasaurus got a chance as a single star because I think that he could be a great heavyweight champion, but they need to get to that point. I think that eventually he has to be a single star, or they have to do the New Day thing where it's tag team but also going after singles titles. And that's all. I think that there are a lot of good matches. I do feel that a lot of people are talking about repeat matches, and sometimes you run to that boat, but how many times have you seen John Cena, Randy Orton? I think they've done it over 200 times, maybe 250 times. So it's a little hypocritical. But I also feel that, like I said, the television really, really struggles for me. And I've gotten to the point where I pick it up over time, and I don't really miss AEW television. And sometimes I fall asleep during it, really. So they have to really fix their television game. I think that they're great with pay-per-views, but I'm not sure what the issue is with their television. And I think they need to just watch a lot of videos online and listen to what people have to say when they analyze why their television is unwatchable, really. But overall, really great show. I'm happy that it went. $185 well spent. And then the other thing too is that in the first match, you saw I walked in during the pre-show. I didn't see all the matches because sometimes when you go to an AEW show and they have 13, 14 matches, you don't want to stay for the pre-show because it just tires you out really, because that's too long really. But I liked Harley Cameron. It seemed like Penelope Ford had Harley Cameron. Megan Bayne had Poison Ivy. It seemed like Harley Cameron was doing a mix between Willow and the Dark Magician Girl. And, the Dark Magician Girl, is really, really hot, really. So anybody who cosplays as that her, that's really awesome. I do have to make a plan to see if in August I can actually go down to, in February to see if I can go down to Australia, because that would be really, really awesome. Because one of my goals is to take a train from Perth all the way to Adelaide and Brisbane, Australia, and then go to those AEW shows. But also too, just to see the outback, see the desert. I love deserts, so see how that goes really. But overall, as far as a pay-per-view, I'm glad that I went. It was a lot of fun really. I also feel very happy because what happened to me was that I was going to upgrade my seats, pay an extra, $300 really, but I'm happy where I sat at, So I think that's also good with AEW really, because, like I said, really, if this was kind of like, as I said, the John Cena farewell show, and I was paying $1,400 for the same seating area, it wouldn't be worth it if it was for this AEW show. But they priced things very, very well. I really want to see them back in St. Louis. I really love the city. I love New York. I love Providence. I love Boston. I love Memphis. I love Nashville. And I love St. Louis, So, definitely happy to be here. Happy I did this vlog. I'm happy I'm learning new skills. When they go do Blood and Guts in Greensboro, hell yeah, I'm going to be there. And when they do Full Gear, hell yeah, I'm going to be there. And when they do Wrestle Dream in Chicago, hell yeah, I'll be there. And definitely I want to keep this alive really. So, like, subscribe, I love to turn this into a lifestyle because I really love this lifestyle, going to different cities, having different burgers, having different adventures, reviewing wrestling and other things like that. So that's all I got to say, safe travels to everybody. You got one life to live, and get what you can out of it. And you know what? Even if you've done a lot of bad deeds in your life, even if you've done a lot of sins in your life, everybody deserves a good life. That just means pick yourself up, atone for your sins, live a lifestyle where you're putting good in the world, and be good to yourself, really. I've had to learn that because I suffer from depression from 28 to 34 years old, and I told myself in one of my darkest moments, you deserve a good life, really, and I'm seeing the outcome of that. So I live the life that I want to live, and that's just who I am.